The asteroid field sparkled like scattered diamonds against the black void of space. Deep within this cosmic graveyard, something waited that would change the course of galactic history forever. The Vorlani research vessel moved slowly between the floating rocks, its blue lights casting strange shadows on the ancient debris. Thane felt his 4 hearts beating faster as he studied the sensor readings. After 20 years of exploring the outer systems, he had never seen anything like this. The object buried inside the largest asteroid defied every rule of natural formation. Its metallic composition was wrong, its geometric patterns too perfect, its energy signature completely alien to anything in their databases. "What do you think it is?" asked Rix, his crystalline body refracting the bridge lights into rainbow. "Patterns." The science officer had been working on the puzzle for 3 hours, but the answers only led to more questions. Kala floated near her navigation console, her tentacles dancing across the bio-interfaces. Her species had evolved in the depths of ocean worlds, and she could sense things that others missed. "It feels old," she whispered. "Very old, but also ... The readings showed a massive structure, 800 meters long, embedded so deeply in the asteroid that rock and metal had become one. But this was not natural accretion. Something had drawn matter to itself, creating a tomb of stone and ice around what was clearly an artificial construct. "Sir, I'm detecting organized patterns in the rock formation," reported Nala, the youngest member of their crew. Her technical skills were exceptional, even by Vorlani standards. The asteroid grew around the object, but the process was accelerated. This should have taken thousands of years, but the mineral dating suggests it happened in decades. Thane's mandibles clicked together as he processed this information. A derelict vessel that somehow attracted matter to itself, creating its own burial chamber. It violated several fundamental laws of physics as they understood them. The probe they launched revealed even more mysteries. The hull material contained microscopic patterns that resembled circuitry, but the technology was unlike anything in their extensive databases. Life support systems appeared intact despite obvious battle damage. Atmosphere was sealed, though the gas mixture contained elements they could not identify. Then they found the markings. "UES Defiance," Rix read aloud, his translation matrices struggling with the angular script. "United Earthship Defiance." The bridge fell silent. Earth was a name from legends, stories told by rim traders about a mysterious species that had supposedly vanished before making formal contact with the galactic community. Most scholars dismissed such tales as spacer mythology, but here was proof carved into alien metal. The ship showed extensive battle damage. Plasma scoring marked the hull, kinetic impacts had torn through armor plating, and energy weapon signatures suggested a fight against overwhelming odds. This vessel had died hard, taking its enemies with it into the dark. "Prepare the boarding." "Shuttle," Thane commanded. "We're going aboard." The approach to the derelict revealed more wonders. The humans had carved access tunnels through solid rock, creating docking bays within the asteroid itself. The engineering required for such work spoke of a species comfortable with making the impossible routine. They found the airlock system still functional after decades of abandonment. Ancient mechanisms groaned to life as Nala interfaced with control systems that were primitive by Vorlani standards but built to last forever. Everything was designed for maximum durability, as if the builders expected their ship to keep working. No matter what happened to them, the first step aboard the human vessel was like entering a different universe. Every surface served multiple purposes, every corridor was lined with emergency equipment, every wall displayed information or artwork depicting the ship's creators. The humans had been bipedal beings, smaller than Vorlani but built for remarkable adaptability. Emergency lighting responded to their presence, motion sensors activating systems that had slept for decades. The ship was welcoming them, following protocols laid down by its long-dead crew. But it was the memorial wall that stopped them in their tracks. Hundreds of names were etched into metal plates, each accompanied by a small image and service record. The humans had honored their dead, preserving their memory in permanent displays throughout the ship. These were not just crew members, but individuals with faces, histories, and families who would never see them again. The main corridor led deeper into the vessel, past blast-scarred walls and hastily repaired deck plating. Message boards showed fragments of the crew's final communications, translated piece by their struggling language matrices. Day 847 of Deep Space Patrol. Contact with unknown vessels. Species unknown. Communication attempts unsuccessful. Day 851. Under attack. Multiple vessels, advanced technology. Heavy casualties. Initiating Protocol 7. Day 853. Main engines destroyed. Life support failing, enemy withdrawing for unknown reasons. Beginning emergency procedures. The messages painted a picture of desperate courage. Outnumbered and outgunned, the humans had fought against impossible odds. But what was Protocol 7? The answer came from deeper in the ship as automated systems began responding to their presence. A rhythmic chiming echoed through the corridors, seeming to come from everywhere at once. The sound was organic, familiar, almost like a heartbeat. Nala's readings confirmed their suspicions. The ship's central computer was synchronized to human cardiac rhythms, welcoming visitors the way it would have welcomed its own crew, but there was more. Power signatures throughout the vessel suggested systems beyond anything they had encountered. Hidden compartments, concealed weapons, and something in the core drawing enormous amounts of energy. The humans had built more than a ship. They had created something that could defend itself. Even after its creators were gone, the final message they found was both explanation and warning. The human captain had left detailed logs describing their final battle and the desperate measures they had taken to ensure their ship would continue serving their species even after the last crew member died. They had refused to surrender, choosing instead to become part of their vessel through some integration process that preserved their consciousness within the ship's systems. The used Defiance was not truly dead, it was transformed, waiting for someone worthy to inherit the legacy of a species that would never give up. As they stood in the corridor of the ghost ship, the Vorlani realized they had discovered more than a derelict. They had found a monument to determination, a testament to the human spirit, and possibly the key to understanding what had happened to an entire civilization. The ship continued to wake around them, its systems responding to their peaceful intentions with welcome and hospitality. But deeper in the vessel, other protocols waited, defenses that would activate if they proved to be enemies rather than friends. The humans had died, but they had not surrendered. And now their ship was ready to share its secrets with those who approached in peace while standing ready to defend itself against those who came with hostile intent. Strange vibrations hummed through the metal floors as the Vorlani exploration team ventured deeper into the human vessel. Each step triggered responses from systems that had waited decades for visitors, and the ship seemed to grow more alive. With every passing moment, Nala pressed her palm against a wall panel, marveling at the warm response from the metal surface. "The hull itself is responding to our body heat," she whispered in amazement. Their technology integrates biological recognition with mechanical systems. The corridors they explored told stories of a crew that had faced impossible odds with typical human stubbornness. Blast shields showed evidence of hasty repairs, emergency supplies were secured with obvious care, and every surface displayed information that might help future visitors understand their sacrifice. Vorn examined the weapon systems built into the corridor walls. His security training recognized defensive positions designed for close combat, but the weapons themselves were unlike anything in Vorlani databases. They prepared for boarding actions, he noted. Every corridor is a potential battlefield. Art covered the walls between functional displays, crude sketches that showed humans at work, at rest, and in combat. The images revealed a species that found beauty even in the darkest circumstances, creating monuments to hope when death seemed certain. The ship's response to their presence became more pronounced as they approached the command center. Lighting shifted from harsh emergency illumination to warmer tones that made the alien spaces feel welcoming. Air circulation systems adjusted to provide optimal conditions for their physiology. and the artificial gravity modified itself to accommodate their different body structure. "It's learning about us," Rix observed, his crystalline form shimmering with reflected light from newly activated displays. "The ship is studying our needs and adapting to make us comfortable." They found the main computer core in a chamber that defied easy description. Banks of processing units were integrated with what appeared to be biological components, creating hybrid systems that pulsed with organic rhythms while processing data at incredible speeds. The technology was primitive by Vorlani standards, but designed with a redundancy that made it nearly indestructible. Nala interfaced carefully with the human systems, her technical skills allowing her to navigate alien architecture with growing confidence. "Their data storage is remarkable," she reported. "Everything is preserved in multiple formats, stored in different locations, and backed up in ways I've never seen before." The breakthrough came when she accessed what appeared to be the captain's personal records. The translation matrix struggled with human idioms and cultural references, but the basic meaning became clear. The final days of the UES Defiance had been spent preparing for something beyond simple death. Captain's personal log, Day 862, Commander Tom Wade recording. "If anyone finds this, it means we didn't make it home, but the ship survived. I need whoever discovers us to understand what happened here and what humans do when pushed beyond all limits." The holographic display activated, showing the command deck as it had been during the ship's final battle. Emergency lighting cast dramatic shadows while the crew moved with desperate efficiency. They were clearly dying, but they were dying on their own terms. "We encountered an alien fleet 12 days ago. 27 vessels with technology far beyond our own. They demanded surrender and wanted to study us like laboratory specimens. When we refused, they opened fire without further communication." The tactical displays showed the impossible nature of the human position. One ship against an entire fleet, outgunned by orders of magnitude, facing enemies with superior technology and overwhelming numbers. Any rational species would have surrendered immediately. "We lost main engines on day 4. Life support began, failing on day 6. By day 8, every major system had taken critical damage. A sensible crew would have surrendered to preserve their lives. But humans don't surrender when innocent lives are at stake." Vorn's security sensors detected movement in the deeper sections of the ship. Not mechanical systems this time, but something that registered as alive despite producing no conventional life signs. "There's something else aboard this vessel," he reported quietly. The captain's log continued with increasing intensity. "On day 9, we initiated Protocol 7. This isn't in any manual because we developed it out here in the dark. When a human ship faces destruction, we don't just die quietly. We make ourselves dangerous. We become a warning to anyone who threatens innocent life." New systems throughout the ship began activating in response to the recording. Hidden compartments revealed weapons that didn't appear on any schematic. Power conduits that had seemed dormant suddenly blazed with energy. The used Defiance was transforming before their eyes. Protocol 7 involves integrating volunteer crew members directly with the ship's core systems. They undergo a process that links their consciousness permanently with the vessel's artificial intelligence. They become part of the ship, ensuring it never truly dies and can continue serving humanity even after the last biological crew member is gone. The implications sent chills through the Vorlani team. The humans had found a way to cheat death itself, preserving their crew's consciousness within their vessel's systems. The ship was not empty, it was inhabited by the transformed minds of its original crew. The volunteers knew it was irreversible, but they also knew it meant the Defiance would continue protecting innocent life long after our bodies failed. The ship becomes a guardian, a monument, and if necessary, a weapon that remembers everything we stood for. The recording showed the final moments of biological humanity aboard the vessel. One by one, crew members entered integration chambers where their life signs disappeared from normal sensors but appeared on new displays that monitored something beyond conventional biology. To whoever finds this ship, know that you've discovered more than a derelict. You found a living memorial to human determination. The crew of the Defiance exists within these systems, and we remember everything. We remember the attack, we remember our enemies, and we remember our duty to protect. Peaceful life. As the recording ended, the ship around them continued to change. Corridors that had been dark now glowed with warm illumination. Information displays activated throughout the vessel, offering star charts, cultural databases, and technical specifications. The Defiance was sharing its treasures with visitors, who had approached in peace, but Vorn's readings told a more complex story. Hidden throughout the ship, weapons of unknown design were powering up, not in threat, but in readiness. The integrated crew was evaluating their intentions, prepared to welcome friends or destroy enemies if you come in peace. Seeking knowledge and understanding, the ship will share everything we learned. Our technology, our culture, our discoveries, all freely given to those who will use them to protect innocent life. But if you come with hostile intent, if you threaten others as our enemies threatened us, you'll discover what happens when humans refuse to stay dead. A new voice suddenly echoed through the command center, not from the recording, but from the ship itself. It was human in origin, but changed by decades of integration with alien technology. Welcome aboard the UES Defiance. We are the crew that refused to abandon ship. State your intentions, and know that we can read the truth in your hearts. The ghost ship was not merely a monument to the dead. It was home to minds that had transcended death itself, carrying the hopes and determination of an entire species within their transformed consciousness. The Vorlani faced beings who had become something beyond conventional understanding, humans who had made themselves immortal to continue serving their highest ideals. Their exploration had become first contact with a form of life that challenged every assumption about death, duty, and the limits of sacrifice. Silence stretched across the command deck like a living thing as the integrated human consciousness waited for their response. The Vorlani team found themselves facing something unprecedented, beings who had transcended death to continue serving their ideals. Minds that had become one with their vessel to preserve everything they valued. Thane stepped forward, his forearms spread in the traditional Vorlani gesture of peaceful greeting. Commander Wade, I am Captain Thane of the Vorlani. Exploration Corps, we discovered your vessel while conducting routine surveys and came aboard seeking only knowledge. We have no hostile intentions toward your ship or your people. The ship's sensors performed scans so detailed that the Vorlani could feel them examining every aspect of their beings, not just their physical forms, but somehow reaching deeper, to examine their true motivations and character. The integrated consciousness was looking into their souls. Vorlani, the voice mused, carrying the weight of decades spent in digital isolation. Your species is unknown to our databases. Tell us, how long have we drifted in this tomb of stone? Rix consulted his portable data core, cross-referencing stellar positions with their navigation charts. Based on our astronomical calculations, your vessel has been here for approximately 47 standard years. We represent the Vorlani Republic, one of 17 spacefaring species currently known in our region of the galaxy. A pause that seemed to last forever before the ship's lights dimmed slightly, as if the consciousness was processing information too painful to accept easily. 47 years, and what of humanity? What news do you bring of Earth and her children? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Nala accessed the Vorlani databases with growing dread, already knowing what she would find. Commander, our records show no active human presence in known space. There are scattered reports, unconfirmed sightings, and legends told by rim traders, but no verified contact with your species for decades. The ship's systems fluctuated as the integrated consciousness absorbed this devastating news. Power readings spiked throughout the vessel as artificial minds that had once been human dealt with the possibility that their entire species had perished while they slept in their metal tomb. When the voice returned, it carried a pain that transcended species barriers. Then we are alone. The final echo of humanity, the last repository of everything our people ever learned or achieved. But even as despair filled the ship's systems, something else emerged, a determination that was purely human in its refusal to accept defeat. The voice strengthened, drawing power from purposes that had sustained it through decades of isolation. No, not alone. The beginning of something greater. We have waited 47 years to find someone worthy of humanity's legacy, and your peaceful approach proves that we chose correctly to preserve what we could. The ship began to transform around them in ways that defied understanding. Walls that had appeared solid revealed hidden chambers filled with technology that made Vorlani science seem primitive. Data streams flowed across surfaces that materialized from nowhere, carrying information that could advance their civilization by centuries. Before the integration process began, Wade explained, we gathered everything we could preserve. Technical specifications for faster-than-light travel that surpasses your current understanding by generations. Medical knowledge that could extend lifespans across all biological species. Agricultural techniques that could transform barren worlds into gardens capable of supporting billions. The main display activated, showing star charts marked with symbols that carried ominous implications. Some systems pulsed with green indicators suggesting peaceful civilizations, others with red warnings, and a few with symbols that made Vorn's natural armor instinctively shift into defensive configurations. But knowledge alone is not enough. The consciousness continued. The species that attacked us, the ones who saw humans as subjects for study rather than potential allies, remain active in this galaxy. They have encountered other peaceful species since destroying our civilization, and the results have been uniformly tragic. The display showed images that made the Vorlani team recoil in horror. Devastated worlds where entire ecosystems had been stripped away. Species enslaved and reduced to biological resources. Civilizations that had taken millennia to develop destroyed in mere decades by beings who viewed other life forms as inherently inferior. The hegemony, Wade's voice carried a hatred that had fermented for nearly half a century. They call themselves the rightful inheritors of the galaxy, believing that superior technology grants them authority to dispose of lesser species as they see fit. They move slowly but systematically, identifying targets and eliminating potential rivals with methodical efficiency. Rix's crystalline form shimmered with growing alarm as he processed the implications. We've received reports from our outer colonies. Entire trading posts going silent, exploration vessels disappearing without trace, established routes being abandoned for unknown reasons. We assumed these were natural disasters or internal conflicts. They were conquest, the ships. Consciousness replied grimly. Systematic elimination of species that might eventually pose challenges to hegemony expansion. They have identified your Vorlani Republic as their next major target, along with most of the peaceful civilizations in this galactic region. The weight of cosmic responsibility settled on 4 explorers who had begun their day expecting routine survey work. They had discovered not just archaeological treasures, but a warning that could determine the survival of every peaceful species in known space. What would you have us do? Thane asked, though he already suspected the answer. What? Humans would do in your position, fight, but not with human methods or human limitations. We offer you knowledge that could be adapted to your strengths, your technology, your cultural advantages, tools that could allow peaceful species to defend themselves against predators. New displays activated throughout the command center, showing technical specifications that made Nala's instruments register readings beyond their measurement capabilities. Defensive systems that could make planets impregnable. Communication networks that would allow instant coordination across galactic distances. Weapons designed not for conquest but for protection of innocent life. And the price of this knowledge? Vorn asked, his security training making him suspicious of gifts that seemed too generous. Remember us, Wade replied simply. Remember what? Happens when peaceful beings are pushed beyond their breaking point. Remember that sometimes the only way to preserve life is to be willing to fight for it. Remember that humans, even transformed humans, never surrender when innocent lives are at stake. The ship's consciousness seemed to grow stronger as it spoke, drawing energy from purposes that had sustained it through decades of waiting. More importantly, continue what we began. Find other peaceful species threatened by the hegemony. Share what we give you, but only with those who will use it to protect rather than conquer. Build the alliance that humanity never lived to join. Thane looked at his team, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination in their expressions that he felt building in his own hearts. They had come seeking knowledge about a dead civilization and found themselves inheriting responsibility for the survival of living ones. We accept this trust, he said formally. The Vorlani Republic will honor humanity's sacrifice and continue your mission of protecting peaceful life. The ship's response was immediate and overwhelming. Knowledge flowed into their portable data systems at rates that threatened to overload their storage capacity. Technical specifications that would revolutionize their understanding of physics, medicine, agriculture, and defense. But more than information, they felt the presence of the integrated consciousness, the collective will of minds that had chosen to become guardians of their species' legacy. Then let us prepare your people for what is coming, Commander Wade. Sod, and for the first time since the integration, his voice carried hope alongside grim determination. The hegemony believes they eliminated humanity completely. They are about to discover that human ideals cannot be killed, only passed on to others willing to carry them forward. The ghost ship had found new purpose, and with it came the possibility of salvation not just for the Vorlani, but for every peaceful species facing extinction at the hands of those who believed might made right. The transformation of Vorlani society began immediately upon their return to the home system. Within hours of receiving the initial data packages from the UES Defiance, their greatest scientists were working around the clock to understand technologies that challenged every assumption about what was possible in the physical universe. Dr. Yuna stared at the holographic displays showing human faster-than-light drive specifications, her compound eyes wide with disbelief. These equations suggest efficiency improvements of 300% over our current systems, she reported to the emergency council session. If this data is accurate, we could reach any point in the galaxy within days rather than months. But the human legacy extended far beyond mere technological advancement. The consciousness aboard the Defiance had shared something more valuable than blueprints. They had transmitted their philosophy, their understanding of what it meant to fight not for conquest but for the preservation of innocent life. General Core examined the tactical doctrines that accompanied the human military technologies. His warrior's mind appreciated the elegant simplicity of human strategic thinking, but he struggled with concepts that challenged traditional Vorlani approaches to conflict. They fight differently than any species we have encountered, he admitted to his staff. Every engagement is designed to minimize casualties while maximizing defensive capability. The integration process was not without challenges. Human technology required materials and construction techniques that pushed Vorlani manufacturing to its limits. More difficult was adapting their social structures to accommodate the concept of total war against an enemy that viewed mercy as weakness. Ambassador Tella led the diplomatic efforts to contact other peaceful species, carrying copies of the human data and warnings about the approaching hegemony threat. Her reports from distant worlds painted a picture of growing terror as entire civilizations faced extinction at the hands of beings who saw them as resources rather than sentient life. The Keth Federation lost 3 colonies last month, she reported during one of the daily briefings. The survivors described ships that appeared without warning, demanded immediate surrender, and began systematic harvesting of both biological and technological resources when their ultimatum was refused. Meanwhile, the Use Defiance had been carefully extracted from its asteroid tomb and brought to the primary Vorlani shipyard. The integration of human consciousness with Vorlani biotechnology created something unprecedented, a vessel that learned from every interaction, that adapted its systems to work seamlessly with organic technologies their builders had never encountered. Chief Engineer Mock supervised the retrofit process with a mixture of excitement and terror. The ship is actively participating in its own modification, he reported to Captain Thane. The integrated consciousness understands our biotechnology better than we do, and is suggesting improvements we never would have considered. The Ghost Ship had become something more than a monument to human sacrifice. It was evolving into a hybrid vessel that combined the best of both species' technologies. Guided by minds that had spent decades planning for exactly this moment, Commander Wade's consciousness had grown stronger as well, fed by purpose and the knowledge that humanity's legacy would continue through their alien allies. "We have been preparing for this awakening," his voice explained during one of their planning sessions. "The integration process allowed us to run simulations for decades, exploring every possible scenario for sharing our knowledge with peaceful species. The first test came sooner than anyone expected. Hegemony scouts appeared at the edge of Vorlani space, their ships conducting detailed scans of defensive installations and fleet positions. The alien vessels made no attempt at communication, treating the Vorlani Republic as they would any other target for eventual conquest. 3 vessels maintaining position just outside our territorial boundary," reported Fleet Commander Zinn. "Their scanning patterns suggest they are cataloging our military capabilities for future reference." The human consciousness aboard the Defiance recognized the tactical situation immediately. "Standard hegemony reconnaissance protocol," Wade confirmed. "They will observe for several days, analyzing your defensive capabilities and identifying optimal attack vectors. When they have sufficient data, they will withdraw to report their findings to the main fleet." This was the moment the Vorlani had been preparing for since discovering the human ghost ship. Their new hybrid vessels were ready for testing, their crews trained in human tactical doctrines adapted for their specific physiological and technological advantages. "All ships report ready for combat operations," Thane announced from the bridge of his new command vessel, the New Defiance. The ship combined Vorlani biotechnology with human engineering principles, creating something that was greater than the sum of its parts. The engagement that followed was unlike anything in recorded Vorlani military history. Their bioships moved with organic fluidity while fighting with human precision, adapting their tactics in real time as the situation developed. The hegemony scouts found themselves facing opponents who fought with a combination of biological adaptability and strategic brilliance they had never encountered. "Enemy vessels are withdrawing," reported Weapons Officer Dex, his voice filled with amazement. "All 3 ships sustained significant damage. One appears to be leaking atmosphere." But the real surprise came from the UES Defiance itself. The integrated human consciousness had interfaced directly with the Vorlani fleet, sharing tactical data and coordinating maneuvers with a precision that made their small force fight like a single organism. "Hegemony reconnaissance mission has been terminated," Wade reported with satisfaction. "Their intelligence gathering was incomplete, and their assessment of your defensive capabilities will be significantly flawed." The victory was small but symbolically enormous. For the first time in their expansion history, the hegemony had encountered resistance that forced them to withdraw rather than complete their mission. The message this sent throughout the galaxy was profound. Peaceful species could fight back successfully if they were willing to adopt human methods of never surrendering. News of the engagement spread quickly through the network of allied species that the Vorlani had been building. Within days, representatives from 12 different civilizations arrived to study human tactical doctrines and request copies of the advanced technologies. Dr. Hess of the Thermal Confederacy examined the data with growing excitement. "These defensive systems could protect our mining colonies from hegemony harvesting operations," she explained to her delegation. "But more importantly, the human philosophy of fighting only to protect innocent life aligns perfectly with our cultural values." The alliance that Commander Wade had envisioned was becoming reality. Species that had never communicated before were working together, united by the knowledge that surrender meant extinction, and that human tactical brilliance offered them hope for survival. "The hegemony will return in greater numbers," Wade warned. During one of the Alliance planning sessions, "Our reconnaissance engagement will be reported as an anomaly to be investigated. They will send a proper invasion fleet to determine what allowed a peaceful species to offer effective resistance." Thane felt the weight of responsibility that came with inheriting humanity's legacy. How long do we have to prepare? 6 months, perhaps 8 if we are fortunate. The hegemony moves slowly but thoroughly. When they return, it will be with overwhelming force, designed to eliminate any possibility of further resistance. The Alliance had 6 months to prepare for a war that would determine whether peaceful species could continue to exist in a galaxy dominated by those who believe that might made right. They had human knowledge, alien adaptability, and the determination of beings fighting for their right to exist. The ghost ship had awakened not just its own systems, but the fighting spirit of an entire galaxy. The real battle was yet to come. 8 months after first contact with the human consciousness, the largest military fleet in Vorlani history assembled at the edge of their home system. But numbers alone told only part of the story. These were no longer the same bioships that had patrolled peacefully for centuries. Each vessel incorporated human tactical innovations, defensive systems that could adapt in real time, and weapons designed specifically for protecting innocent life rather than conquering territory. Admiral Thane stood in the command center of his flagship, watching tactical displays that showed the approaching hegemony armada. 300 vessels of overwhelming technological superiority, moving with the confidence of predators who had never faced effective resistance. Their formation was perfect, their approach methodical, their ultimatum predictably simple. Hegemony. Fleet is transmitting surrender demands, reported Communications Officer Rand. Standard terms: immediate capitulation, transfer of all military assets, relocation of population centers for optimal resource extraction. The same terms they had offered humanity. The same terms that Commander Wade and his crew had died refusing. To accept, signal all Alliance vessels, Thane commanded. Execute Protocol 7 Alpha. The response came not just from Vorlani ships, but from the combined fleets of 13 different species. Vessels representing every major peaceful civilization in their region of space, all equipped with human-enhanced technology. All united by the understanding that surrender meant extinction, the Use Defiance led the formation, its hybrid systems, incorporating technologies from multiple species into something unprecedented. The integrated human consciousness had spent months learning to interface with alien biotechnology, creating coordination networks that allowed the smaller Alliance fleet to fight as a single entity. All vessels report ready, came confirmations, across dozens of different communication protocols. Ships that looked like living organisms but fought with human tactical precision. Crews that had learned to think like humans while retaining their own species. Advantages: the hegemony fleet began its advance, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They had crushed 47 different civilizations using identical tactics. The peaceful species before them would be no different from all the others. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The battle that followed redefined warfare throughout the galaxy. Alliance vessels moved like schools of fish, flowing around hegemony formations while striking at weak points with surgical precision. But they fought with human ferocity, never retreating, never accepting defeat, turning every apparent setback into tactical advantage. Hegemony forward elements are taking significant casualties, reported Tactical Officer Vex, his voice filled with amazement. Their formations are adapting, but they cannot match our coordination speed. The UES Defiance was everywhere at once, its consciousness coordinating the movements of hundreds of allied vessels, while engaging enemy ships with weapons that had been designed by minds that understood both advanced physics and desperate determination. Human memories of ancient battles guided alien warriors in maneuvers that seemed to violate the laws of space combat. Commander Wade's voice echoed across all Alliance communication channels. Remember, we fight not for conquest, but for the right to exist. Every enemy vessel destroyed is one less threat to innocent life throughout the galaxy. The tide of battle shifted as reinforcements arrived from unexpected directions. Species that the Alliance had contacted but not expected to participate began emerging from hyperspace, their ships equipped with human technologies and crewed by beings who had decided that some things were worth fighting for. Keth Federation. Reinforcements arriving from Galactic North, reported Fleet Coordinator Nell. Thermal Confederacy vessels emerging from hyperspace near the enemy's rear formations. The entire galaxy is rising against the hegemony. For the first time in their history of conquest, the hegemony found themselves not facing a single isolated species but an alliance that spanned half the galaxy. Every tactical doctrine they had developed assumed they would be fighting frightened, unprepared victims. Instead, they faced enemies who had learned human lessons about never surrendering and never fighting alone. The climax came when the hegemony command ship found itself surrounded by alliance vessels that moved with impossible coordination. The integrated consciousness aboard the Defiance had created a network that allowed dozens of different species to share tactical information instantly, making decisions at speeds that no conventional command structure could match. Hegemony flagship is requesting communication, reported Ran, his voice carrying disbelief. They wish to discuss terms. It was unprecedented. In centuries of expansion, the hegemony had never found it necessary to negotiate with their victims. But they had also never faced resistance that combined the technological advantages of multiple species with the strategic brilliance and absolute determination of human military doctrine. "Put them through," Thane ordered, the transmission showed. A being of impressive physical stature, clearly evolved from predatory stock. Its voice carried the arrogance of a species accustomed to having its demands met without question. "I am War Commander Zeth of the Hegemony Fleet. You have demonstrated unusual resistance for a peaceful species. We are prepared to offer modified terms for your incorporation into our territorial network." Thane felt the presence of the human consciousness guiding his response. "This is Admiral Thane of the Alliance Defense Force. We reject any terms that involve the subjugation of peaceful species. Withdraw from our territory immediately or face the consequences of threatening innocent life." The hegemony commanders' expression showed confusion mixed with anger. In their entire history, no species had ever rejected their modified terms. "You do not understand the gravity of your situation. We offer you survival under our protection. Refuse and your species will be eliminated completely. We learned from teachers who understood exactly what your protection means," Thane replied, feeling the strength of human determination flowing through the Alliance network. "Humanity showed us that some things are more important than mere survival." The communication ended, but the battle continued with renewed intensity. However, something fundamental had changed. The hegemony fleet, accustomed to fighting demoralized victims, found themselves facing enemies who grew stronger as the conflict progressed. Alliance vessels that took damage simply adapted, using human engineering principles to reroute systems and continue fighting at full efficiency. "Enemy formations are beginning to fragment," reported Weapons Coordinator Brix. "Several hegemony vessels are attempting to withdraw from combat zones." The psychological impact was devastating to a species that had never faced effective resistance. Hegemony crews, trained to expect easy victories against inferior opponents, were unprepared for the reality of fighting beings who refused to surrender no matter how desperate their situation became. Commander Wade's consciousness reached across the entire battlefield, connecting with Alliance vessels that were damaged but not defeated. "Human Protocol 7 is in effect," his voice carried across all channels. "Damaged vessels are to continue fighting until the last system fails. Show them what it means to face beings who will never give up." The turning point came when a group of severely damaged Alliance vessels, following human tactical doctrine, deliberately rammed hegemony command ships rather than retreat. The sight of alien crews choosing certain death over surrender sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet. "Multiple hegemony vessels are breaking formation," reported Admiral Kess from the Thermal Confederacy contingent. "They are withdrawing beyond engagement range." For the first time in their expansion history, the hegemony was retreating, not conducting tactical repositioning or strategic regrouping, but actually fleeing from a battlefield where they had possessed overwhelming technological and numerical advantages. "Alliance casualties are heavy but manageable," came reports from across the fleet. "Hegemony losses exceed 60% of their total force. Enemy survivors are continuing to withdraw toward the galactic rim." The victory celebration that followed brought together representatives of species that had never communicated before the human legacy united them. They had proven that peaceful civilizations could defend themselves when they learned the human lesson that freedom was worth fighting for. But the real celebration took place aboard the UES Defiance, where the integrated consciousness experienced something it had not felt since the destruction of Earth: hope for the future, pride in victory, and the knowledge that humanity's sacrifice had meaning beyond their own survival. "Commander Wade," Admiral Fane addressed the ghost ship's consciousness, "your people would be proud of what we accomplished today." "My people live on," came the reply, and for the first time since the integration process, Wade's voice carried joy alongside determination. "In every Alliance vessel, in every tactical doctrine, in every species that chooses to fight rather than surrender, humanity died as a biological species, but human ideals became immortal. The alliance that emerged from the battle would grow to encompass dozens of species, all guided by principles that Commander Wade and his crew had died to preserve. They had learned that strength came not from conquest but from cooperation, that the greatest weapon against tyranny was the willingness of peaceful beings to stand together when their survival was threatened. In the months and years that followed, the hegemony would find their expansion halted by alliance fleets that fought with human determination but were tempered by alien wisdom. Species that had seemed helpless individually became formidable when united by common cause and guided by tactical doctrines that emphasized protecting innocent life above all other considerations. The UES Defiance continued its eternal patrol, now accompanied by vessels from dozens of worlds, its integrated consciousness serving as both memory and inspiration for beings who had learned that freedom required constant vigilance. The ghost ship had become the heart of something greater than humanity had ever achieved alone, a galactic alliance, dedicated to ensuring that peaceful species would never again face extinction at the hands of those who believed might made right. Humanity's echo would resonate through the stars forever, carried by alien voices that had learned to speak with human determination, to fight with human courage, and to hope with human stubborn refusal to accept defeat. The species was gone, but their greatest gift to the galaxy, the knowledge that some things are worth fighting for, would live on in the hearts of every being who chose to stand rather than kneel.